Today we're going to look at the associative and commutative properties. The associative property, if you remember that from our last chapter, that has to deal with, hey, let's change who's grouped together. So in this problem, I'm going to actually move the parentheses, and I'm going to have negative 1/3 plus 5/6 plus 1/2. Now, why in the world might I want to do that? Well, maybe it's that I like 3 and 6 as common denominators. That could be it. Maybe I realize if I add that negative with that positive, that my problem won't get as big when it comes to the answer. I won't have to worry about some mixed numbers. But anyway, the goal of it is basically I can move the parentheses. I can change what's grouped together. So instead of adding 5/6 plus 1/2, which will come out a mixed number, I can change it around when I'm adding and add negative 1/3 plus 5/6. I'll still come up with an equivalent answer, but I can move what's grouped together. Here's the associative property of multiplication. Now you should remember this one from our last chapter also. What can we do? We can change who associates. We can change the grouping. In this case, I'll have negative 1/3 in parentheses times 3/8, and whatever that equals times 5/7. Why would I want to do this one? Well, remember when we're working with those fractions, we might be able to factor out some numbers like these 3's and make them become 1's. So that might be a reason why we want to change which two numbers we multiply together first. Okay, so let's look at the commutative property. The commutative property simply says we can change the order in which things are done. We can switch places, if you want to call it. So when we want to switch, let's switch these two. So I'll have 1/3 plus 2/5 plus negative 2/5. Oh look, now I've got my 2/5 and my negative 2/5 together. So I might want to add those together to get 0. Or I could have done it the other way. I could have 2/5 plus negative 2/5 plus 1/3. I could have switched these two like that. So the commutative property basically says when you're adding, and everything has to be adding, you can switch the places of the things that you're adding. Same thing happens with the commutative property of multiplication. So I might want to switch places with these two. And so I would have 5/6 times negative 3/5 times negative 4/7. And that would allow me to do some factoring out and make my problem a little bit easier to work. So you can use these properties to help make properties more simple. So that's the associative property and the commutative property. We learned those back in the first chapter, so if you don't remember it, go back and take a look.